Your overthinking is actually a masterpiece of adaptation. Welcome to my channel, Habit Compass. I am so thrilled to have you here today for this video because we are going to completely flip the script on something literally almost all of us struggle with. We're talking about your mind, and specifically how your mind works tirelessly around the clock just to keep you safe. You know, so often we treat our own brains as the enemy, right? We feel like our thoughts are just running away from us, totally sabotaging our peace. I mean, think about what that exhaustion actually feels like. Maybe it's sitting at your desk staring at a simple 2-line email draft to your boss for 20 minutes, just paralyzed by how the tone might be interpreted. Or hey, maybe it's lying in bed feeling physically drained, but your brain is running an absolute marathon. But what if? What if that completely relentless, hyperactive mental energy isn't a flaw at all? What if, underneath the exhaustion it sometimes causes, it's actually this beautifully complex, highly evolved survival mechanism that's working perfectly? Today, we're going to reframe what you've probably called a negative trait your entire life and look at the brilliant architecture of how you actually adapt to the world.
Just stop thinking. We've all heard this advice. Have you ever had a well-meaning friend, a family member, or maybe even a coworker just drop this on you when you are visibly stressed out? Or actually, better yet, have you ever tried yelling this at yourself at 2 in the morning when you're just staring up at the ceiling, begging for like 5 minutes of silence? It is incredibly frustrating, isn't it? It's universally handed out as advice, and yet it is literally the most unhelpful thing you could say. When your mind is a mess, when you're analyzing every single possible angle of a totally random conversation you had 3 days ago, or projecting every possible outcome of a decision you have to make next week, man, a messy mind feels like a massive, heavy burden. Telling someone to just stop thinking in those moments, it's like telling a heart to just stop beating. It completely invalidates the very real weight you're carrying, and it totally ignores the reality of human psychology. So look, the frustration you feel when you hear that phrase is completely valid, because your brain isn't just spinning its wheels for fun. It's not malfunctioning. It is actively engaged in a vital, life-preserving process. Okay, let's dive into this. When we are faced with uncertainty, our minds often feel exactly like this, a dense, dark, chaotic ball of scribbles hovering over our heads. We have all been here, right? This perfectly captures that initial state of vulnerability and deep confusion we get when we're faced with a new challenge, a sudden change in plans, or just an unpredictable situation. To the outside world, and honestly, even to yourself, it just looks like a total mess. It feels like anxiety, it feels like a lack of focus, and it definitely feels like a complete loss of control over your own mental faculties. The lines of those scribbles are crossing all over one another, basically representing every what-if, every lingering doubt, every worst-case scenario playing out simultaneously in this huge tangled web. It is loud, it is distracting, and frankly, it takes a massive toll on your energy. But here's the absolutely crucial paradigm shift we need to make today. That messy ball of scribbles? It is not the end of the story. No, it's merely the raw material. It is the very beginning of a highly structured, highly intentional process. Let's move to and see how this builds, because if we actually let that process unfold, we see how all this chaos builds into something incredibly purposeful. This sequential execution plan changes everything we assume about overthinking. So step 1 is untangling into a blueprint. That chaotic ball of scribbles isn't permanent. Your brain isn't just holding on to it to torture you, it's actively working to untangle it. All those wild, racing thoughts are actually your mind drafting a really complex, beautiful blueprint of your environment and spotting any potential threats. Then we move to step 2, building the safe house. Once your brain has mapped out all those variables, it uses that blueprint to construct a mental and emotional safe house. Think about what this looks like in reality. It's mentally rehearsing a difficult conversation in the shower so you don't freeze up later. Or it's setting a firm boundary with a toxic coworker because you finally analyzed their patterns and you know exactly what to expect. You are creating contingencies, preparing your reactions, and fortifying your boundaries based on all the data you just processed. And finally, we have step 3, withstanding the hurricane. Because of all that meticulous preparation, when the actual chaos of life, the hurricane, finally hits, your house stands firm. The chaos transforms into a purposeful structure. So your quote-unquote overthinking was actually just the critical construction phase of your own resilience. Now, this brings a very grounded, calming weight to our narrative. There's actually a scientific term for this whole process, and it's called cognitive adaptation. This is the hidden scientific purpose behind that safe house metaphor we just walked through. It is simply the brain working to understand and adapt to its environment. Just let that sink in for a second. It is not a glitch in your personality. You are not broken because you think deeply about things or anticipate problems before they arrive. When you're tossing and turning, running through elaborate scenarios of what could go wrong, your brain is engaging in cognitive adaptation. It is doing exactly what it was evolutionarily designed to do.
surveying an unpredictable, potentially dangerous environment and working overtime to understand it so that you can adapt and survive. Obviously, in our modern world, the threats might be a looming deadline, a financial shift, or a complex relationship dynamic, rather than, a predator in the wild. But the core mechanism is exactly the same. It's scanning for variables, predicting outcomes, and preparing your defenses. It is a profound, relentless act of self-preservation. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how, even as the hurricane rages outside with absolute chaos, our figure is standing calm. The wind is howling, but they are totally untouched by the storm because of the safe house they built. This completely reframes what we thought was a flaw into a brilliant survival mechanism. We really have to tear off these old labels that just aren't serving us anymore. The old labels tell us this is just a messy ball, and it's just overthinking. And let's be honest, those are words wrapped heavily in guilt and shame. They make us feel small. But consider the new labels. What you're actually doing is employing an advanced strategy. And the ultimate goal here is simply staying safe. When you realize that your intense mental processing is actually an advanced strategy deployed by a brain that cares deeply about your survival, the shame just kind of melts away. You can stop fighting yourself. You aren't a victim of your thoughts, you are the beneficiary of a hyper-vigilant protector that is constantly working to ensure you can weather any storm that comes your way. So as we wrap up this video, I want to leave you with this. How will you view your next hurricane knowing your mind is just trying to build a safe house? The next time you feel that familiar, messy ball of scribbles forming above your head, and the next time someone casually tells you to just stop thinking, I want you to remember the blueprint. Remember that your mind is doing the heavy lifting of cognitive adaptation. It is building your shelter. It's preparing you to be strong. So instead of feeling frustrated, acknowledge the work your brain is doing, thank it for trying to keep you safe, and let that realization bring you a profound sense of calm amidst the mental storm. If you learned something new, subscribe to the channel for building better habits through navigating Compass, and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you.